At a time of great crisis, in the boardrooms of Hollywood, the legends foretell the development executives will return to Reboot It. Welcome back to Reboot It. We are your heroes, and we're going to take pollution down to zero. This is the show for the golden age of IP entertainment, where all your favorite franchises will get reboots. We're just trying to make sure they don't suck. I am producer Bill. I am a recovering development executive, and with me, as always, the Reboot Crew. We've got Mr. Billy Business.
Hello.
We have got Ed Greer.
What's up, guys? Ready.
And finally, in the bottom corner, Ron Swallow.
Greetings, Planeteers.
And today we are rebooting a show that no one is asking for a reboot of. I mean, this one is one of our more wild swings because this is a franchise that barely survived its original run. This is not anything that has had a new life, with respect to the people at College Humor and that amazing Don Cheadle video that they put out. Today, we are talking about Captain Planet and the Planeteers, if we are using its full name. A fondly, I think, remembered cartoon from the late 80s.
Oh, and just
It was
real quick,
it was 90s. And that's important. It's like 1990, I think.
Okay,
like right on the cusp.
1996, actually.
Well, it was broadcast from 1990, and then all the way to 96. Yeah, and that's important.
Okay. Well, one of my favorite fun facts about Captain Planet and the Planeteers is that it was co-created by Ted Turner.
Yes. 100%.
And another fun fact, which is a little bit less well known, the supervising producer for most of its run was a guy named Tom Beers. And in my old world of reality television, Tom Beers is a legend because he is the guy who created Deadliest Catch. And so that entire genre of like rugged men doing things outdoors for reality shows started with the guy who was the supervising producer on Captain Planet. So that's very bizarre.
He wanted to save the fish in Captain Planet so he could ruggedly pull them out a few years later.
100%.
Oh yeah, and real quick correction. It was Funny or Die. Those were
I'm sorry.
Sketches. Yeah,
I don't mean to besmirch the people at Funny or Die by comparing them to College Humor.
Doesn't Funny or Die own College Humor? I'm making that up. I don't think
who even knows. I mean, this is the whole point of the show. Every company is eating every other company until it's only going to be Disney and Apple standing. But in any event, Captain Planet and the Planeteers. The spirit of the Earth, Gaia, is essentially like a Marvel cosmic character in this show, and she empowers 5 teenagers with the power of the elements and heart, for whatever reason, so that they can fight eco-terrorists and other polluters, and when the going gets tough, they summon Captain Planet, some kind of bizarre silver-skinned cosmic humanoid who has all of their powers combined, actually resembles the Forever People, and I forget the name of the character that they summon, but in Jack Kirby's New Gods, there's the exact same setup where with the word Taru, they summon somebody. Anyway, it's a very bizarre cartoon. Billy, I know that you did a little bit of a deep dive. Tell us a little bit about who the Planeteers were fighting, because I think that there's some real gems in there.
Yeah, look, this is like all puns. Like all the eco villains, I think they're literally called eco villains. There was like first of all, there's Duke Nukem, not to be confused with the video game character Duke Nukem. And actually, if I read all of this right, I believe that Duke Nukem originated with Captain Planet, and it was the video game that actually was like, hey, we want to use this name. And yeah, then there's such dastardly doers as Loot and Plunder and Sly Sludge. It was, Batman villains have nothing on some of these like super. Who did I say Luton Plunder's son was? Oh no, it was his nephew. Robin Plunder. Robin Plunder, baby.
Yep. Yeah. Did you mention
what's bonkers is the cast.
Yes.
Like, yeah. Let me tell you some of the voice cast from the original series. These are all like mostly guest stars. Whoopi Goldberg is Gaia. Then you have Meg Ryan. You have Jeff Goldblum, Ed Asner, John Ratzenberg. I mean, this is Martin Sheen. Like, this is insane. And then Zarm, who is basically like the evil version of Captain Planet, I guess.
He's the Bizarro Captain Planet. He's Captain Pollution.
With Sting. Sting from Sting and the Police. It's bonkers. This show makes literally Ted Turner was like,
hey, I got the show and I'll give you $50 million if you come do a voice, okay? And we can watch wrestling together.
Like Ted Turner called everybody and it shows. It's so weird.
Yeah, I think that it also speaks volumes that if you do look at that cast list, it's like for seasons 1 through 3 only, and then in seasons 4 and 5, they're all replaced by like actual voice actors. Because clearly Ted Turner's favors only go so far.
Right. Meg Ryan's not going to be like, oh, let me get back in the booth for you, Teddy. You know, right. I've got some mail I got to get with Tom Hanks, you know?
Well, as we always do, I want to kind of go around the horn here and see what everybody's memories are of Captain Planet and the Planeteers, if you remember them at all. Ron, let's start with you. Any connection at all to Captain Planet?
I mean, I watched a few. They were totally entertaining. I don't remember even caring about the like environmental part. I remember the mullet combined with the flat top. I think that's probably the most important part.
Peak 90s. Ed, any connection?
You know, I really don't want to downplay how much this did mainstream giving a shit about the environment. Like, you can't really downplay that. I mean, that was his mission and he got that accomplished and he paid through the nose, you know. And I think it was also favors too. Like, hey man, I know I offered you a bunch of money, you turned it down, but come over to the house. You ever seen Jane Fonda up close? It's an event. just come over. We'll talk about it. And next thing you know, Ed Asner signed on as the voice of one of the bad guys. I just think he used his influence to do something really powerful. A lady basically show ran the show. And I think that's cool. You know, for the time, I think that's really cool. So like, I would want to, my connection to it would be, I just don't, it's such a silly idea because it was so earnest. And I think saying that we just moved past earnestness is ridiculous. We just got to find a new way to be earnest. You know, that's what I think.
I think that's a great call. I think this is going to be one of our greatest tonal tightropes to walk. Billy, as the baby of the group, you are famously the youngest. What was your connection to Captain Planet?
Oh, man. So, look, I'm speaking as 7-8-year-old Billy. Captain Planet was just always in the way of something else. Like, I would be like, oh, I want to watch Saved by the Bell. Ah, shit, Captain Planet's on. Or this is when the Braves were like an all-star team. It's like, oh, the Brave, Captain Planet's on. Like, I understand this was popular, but kind of in the same way of like Avatar, I'm like, I don't know a single person at school that watched it. We never talked about it. We never played Captain Planet at recess or anything. So, you know, it wasn't like, I just, you know, it was dorky. It was super dorky. And at least at that point, like caring about the environment in 1994, it was dorky. I don't know what to tell you. Like, it was Power Rangers was what we were about. And it's like, I don't want Captain Tree Hugger and the Planet Pussy Brigade. I want Power Rangers and their gas guzzling Megazords. That's what I care about. So, like, to me, Captain Planet was always just like that really corny, dorky thing. Obviously, it was popular enough that everyone knows the song, even though it's Mandela Effect, because that's not the theme song. The song everyone knows is the song that plays at the end of the episode. And you probably only know that because you were waiting for that shit to end so you could watch something else. So that's kind of my Captain Planet was just like, I never really liked it, and watching it lately, it hits differently. It's still dorky and bad, but it's also just like, I don't know. We're gonna have to. The other thing I say why the 90s matters is because the environment that we were desperately trying to save was very different in the 90s as opposed to today. And I don't think we can look past the fact that Captain Planet can't really do shit in 2025.
Yeah, is this going to be the Dark Knight Returns version of Captain Planet, where he's all beat to crap?
Dude, every episode that I've watched, it's just like he's just this. He has no character. He's just this Deus Ex Machina that comes in at the last 4 minutes of an episode, cleans up the mess like a janitor, and then flies off. He's like, "The power is yours." It's like, what part of that was theirs? You did everything, and then just sucked yourself back into the ground.
While I hear all that, let's not dismiss the formula, because that is exactly how the Power Rangers Megazords function.
No, sir. I anticipated that very sentence. I knew it. I played this in my head all day long. I was like, one of these fuckers is going to say it. Let me tell you the difference. Please. Johnson, if I may borrow an Ed Greerism, let me tell you the difference. The difference is that Zordon gave these teenagers the power of the Power Rangers, and they had agency. They were the ones that had to do everything. They were the ones karate chopping. They were the ones with the weapons. They had to come up with everything, and they used their Zords only when they had to, because something else get bigger. And it's not like the Zords fought by themselves. They still had to drive that thing. Whereas Captain Planet, like literally these kids are like, oh, I summon fire, I summon water, I summon your heart, whatever. And then it's like, well, that didn't work. Okay, let's just quickly have someone else come in and do it. Power Rangers had agency, Planeteers do not.
Let me say, as the person with heart here, actually, I do want to say this. Look, you know, I think that's very prescient today because, so I just went to an art exhibit for some of my wife's best friend's kid, and going through looking at their art, I would say 3 out of 4 pieces of that art was about climate change. I'm not exaggerating. 75% of the art they made, drawings, whether it be like written word combined with, pictures or anything like that, was about climate change. Kids and teenagers are afraid of climate change right now. And while I know we're not immediately getting into pitching right now, I think the idea that you just talked about, Billy, that you didn't even realize you talked about, but you did, was giving kids agency over beating climate change might be a really cathartic way to go with Captain Planet at this moment.
Let's talk about those teenagers real quick. The other thing that this show was known for is it really featured a multi-ethnic cast. And very specifically, I mean, of the 5 teenagers, I believe they were designed to be from 5 different continents. So you had, and beyond that, I don't know, we're going to have to name them and go through who they all were at some point. I think we have a lot of leeway to play with that in our version. But just to summarize, they're essentially all like benders from Avatar: The Last Airbender. So you have one that has the power of earth, one that has the power of fire, one that has the power of water, one that has the power of air, and they can essentially control those elements to some limited degree in a psionic telekinetic way. I still don't know what the Heart Kid's power was. The kid who had the power of heart also had a pet monkey, and that was the coolest thing about him, because otherwise that kid sucked. No offense, Ron, you're a much better user of the heart power than this kid. But I just remember that kid, like, as someone who did watch a fair amount of Captain Planet as a kid and remembers almost none of it, I do remember how much I disliked that kid who had the power of heart. Does anybody have any idea what the power of heart is? Is that just to make people care?
I
Well,
think so.
they used
I
it
think so.
in the. I've seen episodes of the show, like trying to do some research. I mean, I've seen pieces of episodes where it's like he'll use it to be like they went that away because he can like feel their hearts or some crap, and he's been able to talk to his monkey better than you would normally be able to talk to a monkey because he's got the power of heart and their hearts are communicating with some shit. But it's really amorphous, is what I'm saying. It's the bad shark repellent of this show. This heart bullshit.
And that's a bummer because the power of heart should literally be understanding emotions, understanding the importance of standing up for what's right, like the things that we would put about heart, and that would lead you to be able to even do something along the lines of, well, a bad guy would think this way. So
I get it. Yeah. I mean, I think that's the point, is like, when I was a kid, these were just all sort of knockoff X-Men. And then the Power of Heart kid was just like, well, what does he do? It's not visual and it's not specific in the way that you want as a kid.
Yeah, no, 100%.
And so let's start there. If we're talking about teenagers with attitude who are going to get these powers, do we want this to be live action? And do we want, to commit ourselves to like, all right, this is going to be CG? The reason I ask is kind of multifaceted. Number one, we've seen some manga adaptations lately where they take very cartoony visuals, very cartoony worlds, and try to translate them to live action in a very cartoony way. I'm thinking of things specifically like One Piece or the Avatar adaptation on Netflix. And I don't know that it's been that successful.
Like
and
Cowboy
One Piece
Bebop
was
as well.
Cowboy Bebop too. All right, so Ron liked One Piece. I don't know. Some of the rubbery faces and stuff, I don't know if I was buying it. But then again, I'm not a One Piece fan. But the other thing I wanted to mention, Captain Planet, as evidenced by our good friend Donald Cheadle, that is a hard look to pull off in live action. So I just want us to think about this for a little bit. We could always change the look of Captain Planet as well, and maybe we'll have to because he is wearing a midriff bearing shirt and underwear.
I think we 100% will have to change what Captain Planet looks like, and I think that is totally okay.
But let's
the Marvel cinematic universification of his outfit is going to definitely have to take
seams everywhere.
Seams and rivulets and stuff. It's going to be bolted on in certain sections for texture. Yeah, no.
But let's talk about, do we want to go live action versus cartoon? And cartoon could be anything, it could be hand drawn, obviously could be computer animated, could even do something interesting and new. And I'm thinking even something like Spider-Verse, or like that announced Robins movie that DC is doing, where it's sort of puppetry mixed with CGI. I don't know. Does it make sense to go one way or the other right now? Any strong feelings on that?
I just kind of feel like it depends on the story that we're telling and who are we telling it to, because I if we're just kind of like re-updating the myth now, then sure, animation's fine. But if it's like we're trying to tell us like if we're trying to tell it to the millennials who maybe watched Captain Planet, then I'm like, that seems like a darker story, and I don't know if animation would serve it. But ultimately, like it's kind of just like, I don't know, I feel like it would be a disservice to remake Captain Planet the way it was, even to like not make it as corny, because like I said, the planet is in such a different place. And I know part of Ted Turner's thing was like, if we can get the kids invested now, then maybe we can do something to try to turn this around. But now we're at a point where we can't really turn it around. The best we can do is like try to slow down the bleeding of climate change, but it's here. So it's like, what purpose does a Captain Planet even serve at this point? Like, I feel like if you summoned him now, he'd be like, well, what have you been doing for the past 30 years?
What do you want me to do about this?
Exactly. It's like, I think you better just try to find Captain Spaceport and get your ass off this planet before it explodes. You know?
Well, okay, but okay, well,
He
let's
just goes
take
into a
that.
city and immediately dies, and that's the end of the show.
Well,
I'm just saying, like, to me, it's like if Captain Planet is like angry, then I don't think that serves an animated film because I don't want to take my kid to that. But if it's like, hey, millennials, remember Captain Planet? And then you come in and be like, Captain Planet's fucking disappointed in you. Then I think I'd want to see that in live action.
Well, okay. Well, here's my. I like that, but I also want to point out that the problem always was that people were blaming us for climate change, and something like 80% of climate change is very simply corporations spewing unhealthy things into the air that we can do nothing about. People love to be like, if we all drove electric cars, and yes, that would help 100%, not even 100%. It would help a little bit, but that's not the majority of the pollution. So again, maybe this will just be my theme all of the time for the rest of eternity. But to me, this is corporations being evil, and Captain Planet's job has got to either convince corporations or stop corporations from doing terrible things. That's what it is to me.
Can I tell you why I don't like that? And I'm not trying to be a downer, is because then what is the point of putting this fairy tale story out there? Like, all we have to do is just convince the bad guys to just stop. Like, we're not. And this is not like Thanos
we can kill
snapping
his
hold on, this is not like Thanos snapping his fingers, where this is not something that we are going to encounter in our lives. We are encountering this in our lives. And the last thing I would want is some kid to walk out of there, and even though Captain Planet is not real, but this kind of, even if it's subliminal, this idea like, well, someone else can fix it, or someone can convince them to stop, because you can't. And that's where it's like, this one is so hard because it's like, it's almost impossible to tackle this in a realistic way that's not super pessimistic. You know what I
So
mean?
should we try to be funny?
Maybe.
I don't.
I mean,
I don't know if I want to joke about it. Unless the joke is on us at the end, because it's like we messed up. Humans messed up.
I mean, I think there's I think there's a line to walk there where you can acknowledge, which the original cartoon did, by the way. This was Ted Turner's whole point. Like, you can acknowledge that the biggest polluters are capitalists, because essentially all of the Captain Planet villains were capitalists in some fashion. But also, I can see how the idea of like, no, if we could just rally ourselves to stop these couple guys, things are going to be okay, is a little bit of a milquetoast message given the time that we're living in. But I think we could find a line to walk. I will say I'm very on board with what Ron said earlier, that this should be targeted at kids. I mean, if we're talking target audience, if we're talking who are we making this for, I would love to make this for like 8 to 12-year-olds. Make this a 4-quadrant family movie, or maybe a series, but I feel like a movie could be a good way to go. Ed, what are you thinking right now?
I mean, the Don Cheadle sketches were very effective, because one of the things that Billy was talking about earlier that made me think of, like, him being disappointed in us could be a big section of the movie. And we've done remakes of, back when we were kids, we did this wonderful thing, and now later in life we're going to take it up again, or we have to take up the mantles or whatever, like the disaffected 90s kids who used to be the Captain Planet stuff or whatever. I don't necessarily want to trod that ground, but I do want there to be some pathos in the kids having the rings and them doing something to bring Captain Planet back, or make Captain Planet, and Captain Planet is like really psychotic for a minute of the movie, and it may be a little bit scary for the kids, but it's like, hey, we have to, there is, you got to be angry about this stuff, is all I'm saying. I don't want to ruin the 4-quadrantness of it, but there has to be some sort of righteous anger about this stuff, or else we're just doing the continuing milquetoast.
That's kind of my point. Was like, the one thing that I do want to fix was something I said earlier, which is like, the slogan of the show that they pounded in was "the power is yours," but then they never take agency. And it's just like, how do we show that? How do we show that, like, no, the power is yours and you have to use it, and not, like, Captain Planet comes in, sweeps up the mess, and then he's gone. because
Do
I
we
feel
go-
like that's the message I'd want to send the kids out with, you know?
I mean, this totally contradicts everything I was just saying, but Ed sparked something. Do we go like down the road of those public domain horror movies that they're making now, where it's like you take Winnie the Pooh and you make a horror movie out of like, can we take Captain Planet and make him a horror movie villain, like in the vein of the Terminator or an Alien or something?
Okay,
mean-
so meeting you in the middle,
Okay.
you know who actually did that story really, really well? Was the very first Moana, where they're
Yes.
up against this horrible monster, and you find out that it's actually the island that they were trying to save. And once they restore nature, that the villain all along was the person they were trying to save. So that, like, if you follow that blueprint, I could see that kind of working, you know?
And
Well,
let me
and
also,
also-
say,
Go ahead, Ron.
again, judging from the art of these kids, they're all furious. So I just want to point out that 8 to 12-year-olds can be furious about art. I mean, and about climate change. Like, sure, they were middle schoolers, so they're really more like, 12 to 15-year-olds or 12 to 13, 10 to 13-year-olds. But there were things on fire and them pictures of themselves screaming in fury. So I think they understand the anger, and I think that you can walk that line that Billy's talking about of being angry, being upset with what's been happening, but also not giving in to that hate completely and going the extra step to bring the planet back to a place where we can all live and survive.
What would those kids do with the planet rings? I mean, maybe that's the mental exercise. Like if you have a picture of what one of those kids is in your head, like you give that kid the wind ring. What does that kid do with the wind ring?
Great question. Probably tornado Elon Musk.
Well, see, that's what I'm thinking about as well. Is just I kind of want, me, I always skip to the end, so just Tarantino it a bit. But I'm thinking of a big ass like section of the movie where yes, they call upon Captain Planet, and Captain Planet does a lot of stuff for them. But Captain Planet's unwieldy. Captain Planet doesn't know stuff. We can get some humor out of that and some kind of maybe some scares out of like how monstrous this soulless thing they've conjured is. It's like, I told you to stop the polluters and you just like slammed 2 aircraft carriers together or whatever. It's like countless dead, dude. Like, what's going on? Anyway, but like maybe not that much. But the bottom line is he's an unwieldy golem of a thing because they don't necessarily know their idea of how to help the planet. They're fractured on how they think about helping it or whatever. So this golem that they make is unwieldy and weird. Towards the end of it, though, you get the double whammy. They know what they want to do, and Captain Planet executes that better because he understands them and understands the world or something.
Almost like
And
he
at the
pilots
I
end-
them.
like this. Like, what if Captain Planet is almost a himbo and he doesn't know what he's doing, and everything's either very literal or he just, like you said, he almost makes things worse. And it's because his power is coming from the kids, so it's almost their manifestations of like how to fix it or what to do
Right,
is
right.
coming from the I
Right.
love that idea.
And as they refine it,
because
just
then
like
the
we're
power
asking the
is
kids,
theirs, you
it
know.
is
Yes.
That's
the power
yes.
is theirs. And you could even add a Teen Wolf element at the end where the kids still got to do some hot shit. It's not just that they told their golem what to do and it's executing the plan. They have to actually fire, earth, water, wind up some jazz, heart up some dudes to get smashed by the earth and all this Avenger stuff that Joss Whedon turned around. We shouldn't cancel that shot along with him. You know what I mean? And we get one of those going of the kids taking agency, doing this dope thing they know how to do now, helping Captain Planet to execute the plan that they've formulated due to the fact that they've educated themselves over the course of time, as our audience has, hopefully. I think
Maybe
that's
we
the
should
hot
think
bit.
of Captain Planet as more like Vision from Age of Ultron, where it was kind of
Sure.
like,
Mhm.
like, well, it was just born yesterday kind of feeling,
Yeah.
I
And
like
that
that a
and
lot.
now we got to work the kids up to that. So where do we start them off at? Where do
Well, I
where do
think
they find the rings? How do they get there?
I mean, I think two good questions to ask are like, all right, what's our concept of Gaia? Because if Gaia is the one who's empowering, or if we have a totally separate entity, but start with that character, which I think is a really interesting idea now, because it's like, what does the personification of life on Earth look like at the moment? And then obviously the other question would be, who's the villain? And I think maybe those two things could be interrelated, although, long epic backstories about cosmic brothers or sisters or whatever is a little trite, but possible. So if anything sparks, I mean, to me, kind of going with what Ed's saying, if the spirit of the earth is a little bit wild and a little bit unwieldy itself, right? So I don't know where you go with that, or maybe Gaia is depowered in some way. Maybe either Gaia is a little bit in a fugue state, or Gaia has lost her mojo, or what I mean?
What if Gaia's a little more like, what if Gaia is a little bit more angry and is like, you guys have to fix this now. You have to fix it. And I'll give you the powers to fix it, but you got to figure it out.
Here's a good ticking
I told you
clock.
before and you didn't listen, so now you do it.
A good ticking clock could be when Gaia hands out the rings, it's like, either you fix this or I'm going to scour life from the planet and start over. You know what I mean? Like it becomes this sort of do or die mission where it's like, I am now in a race where it's either your species or me. So figure something out, or I'm going to have to do something about it. You know what I mean?
Maybe a good old flood.
Well, yeah. I mean,
keep it vague. Like, I'll flood the entire planet. I'm not going to kill all, then it's not as explicit, but I'll flood the whole planet. We all know that means you're all going to die. But
I mean, we don't have to say it. I mean, shoot, like we could go real crazy and have it be, some sort of a pandemic or a virus or microscopic spores that infect people, or just something that's sort of
I'm looking at our money. I'm looking at our money deplete here. No, what I'll think about is this. How about this? All of the powers combined of the Earth all at the same time on some Geostorm ass, Roland Emmerich crap, where it's like Gaia starts acting up real bad around this time because perhaps there's some villain that we can stop in the movie that's doing something particularly egregious. I'm giving us over to the adventure film format. There must be one singular person doing a singular super horrible thing to the Earth with nobody trying to stop them. And these Planeteers have to be the ones. They can see it very clearly that this dude is the baddest of the bad. He's not Taylor Swift in a jet. He's Lex Luthor, and we got to stop him.
Yeah, we can't make Gaia the bad guy. You're right. That's actually
it's not the Gaia.
Gaia. No, but Gaia, I kind of like the Gaia as a ticking clock. I think that's interesting because it's like the Earth isn't going to wait for us the Earth is going to be fine after we're gone. That's one thing I would, if I'm going to be a dickhead about any of this shit, is the Carlinism of the Earth will be fine. This talk about the Earth is going to end. No. We're going to end. Right. We have to change our behavior. The Earth does not. So I think pounding that home with the Gaia ticking clock thing could be good.
Okay.
Cool. So there is a villain. We talked about him earlier, who's Zarm, and Zarm was also a spirit of the Earth, who basically he was Lucifer. He fell out from Gaia, and he was seeking war and destruction and destroyed all these other planets. And he comes back to Earth to basically finish off Gaia and change things into his own kind of wasteland. That could be a potential story. Like there's potential there. Go ahead.
No, just as you were talking, I got a hook on that. What if Gaia is the spirit of all life except humans, and Zarm is the spirit of human life? You know what I mean? Zarm is the avatar of human life. And the problem is Zarm is all of kind of our avarice and pettiness and struggle to succeed and win at all costs mentality. But meanwhile, and I'm also thinking meanwhile, Gaia, it's like if you see Gaia, or maybe it's like you even have talking animals or the avatars of Gaia. It's like Gaia is the embodiment of all the things that can't speak for themselves, whereas Zarm is sort of like the conceited personality of man.
I like that a lot. And there's the episode that I watched this morning was like the introduction to him. It was actually pretty cool. He was like, "Hey, I'm here to help you. You got dinky little rings. Let me give you a gauntlet and your powers will be like 10 times stronger." And it was almost like the One Ring where they put on the gauntlet and they started to kind of like what we were saying earlier in this episode where, you know, of Ed, you saying like Captain Planet doesn't really know what he's doing, so he kind of smashes shit together and makes things worse. That's what the kids were doing. They're like, look at how big of a wave I can make and control the water. And she makes this huge tidal wave. So you could almost have him be this kind of like temptress to the kids, being like, you know, like, hey, I'm here to help you. You know, I don't know why Gaia's not giving you the full powers. Let me give you the full powers, when really he's just looking for them to wipe out whatever we decide it is that, you know, helps his cause. That was like the one story beat that I watched. I was like, oh yeah, that actually makes kind of sense. And then,
Ooh, and I got
of
an
course,
interesting.
with 5 minutes left, Captain Planet comes in, kicks his ass, and sends him packing, and you never see him.
I got an interesting add-on to that. This is where you can make Heart useful, because he never makes Heart's powers any stronger. Everybody else's powers get stronger, but for some reason, Hearts aren't getting any stronger. Why is that? And Heart's thinking about it and realizes eventually the reason it's not getting better is because he's using us.
So what's funny is in the episode, Heart is the only one that won't take his gauntlet. He's the one that runs to Gaia and is like, hey, who is this guy? And she's like, ah, shit, it's Zarm. And he's like, well, that's why I didn't take one. He was like a total narc. But
Ron,
I like
the
the
show's
idea
wavelength.
better.
Yeah, I didn't even think about that. But I mean, you talked about how Heart was mostly useless. It kind of felt like, and making them useful would you know, kind of go against the show's norms.
But I like the idea, Bill, of there being two forces that create life, which is nature and man, and they're always kind of at odds.
Yeah.
In terms of, you know, or you would think that they would live in harmony, but because Zarm is so greedy, like we are, he's kind of ruined this relationship. It's kind of like a classic trope, but it works for this, you know.
I also wonder if you could give Zarm, you know, in a good Thanos way, an understandable motivation. Like maybe Zarm is the spirit of creation, right? Like Gaia just wants everybody to, you know, be what they are and live in harmony. But Zarm wants you to become more than you are. Zarm wants you to bend the elements to your whim. Zarm will help you avoid dying because you're going to create comfort. You're going to create strength. But to do so, you have to build. You have to dig things out of the ground and reshape it in your own image. You know what I mean? So it's like,
dude. Okay. So that's why I think Zarm should be. It's just Dr. Zarm, whatever the fuck. You know what I'm saying? Zarm should be just the him being a corporate magnate. That is our god. If I were coming to proselytize all this innovation and all this jazz, who would I be? How would I present as the devil of this stuff? I would be Elon Musk. I'd be these people who go, like you're just saying, all those CEOs that want to cheat death, want to cheat everything, want to cheat the artistic process with a bunch of AI bullshit and soulless garbage. All these people who want to cheat everything in service of quote unquote innovation and democratization. That sounds good. And that could sound good to the kids for a little while in the early parts of the movie. So that they have an intimate knowledge of the villain, and then they can buck it and change, and kids can be educated to how some of these people could sound good and be doing some of the worst shit in the end when you find out what they're really doing.
I mean, to me, that all sounds more like the kind of popular, call them YouTube podcast personalities who essentially just shill for a corporate point of view under the guise of it being like philosophy.
Hey,
Zarm Rogan.
Yeah. Zarm Peterson.
Yeah.
Sure.
Hey, I'm totally down with that. As somebody who, they're pretending and I'm not calling any of those people this, but there are people who seem to be pretending to be disruptors, but what they're really in there to do is come in and solidify a better shack to sell the same right wing, the same technologist, the same technocrat, the same fascist talking
The
points
vitamins,
to
the
you.
whatever. Yeah.
Well, and I mean, the thing right now is we're finally, and I think this ties back to Captain Planet, we're finally reckoning with the whole idea of the disruptor because of like what Doge just did. This idea of like go in, break anything, break everything, and then fix it later is not the greatest way to approach shit. So if our Zarm character is essentially trying to peddle that idea that no, we can always do better. You just got to build. You just got to make the world what you want it to be. Like the world is dangerous. Nature sucks. I mean, I don't know if we want to be that on the nose, but that's the idea. And Zarm is just like, no. Man's ultimate purpose is to create his own utopia with his own hands. You got to get out there and build, baby. Like that's
right. And just all those
I think
speeches.
go ahead.
Oh,
I was gonna say, I think to bring it home and to make it relevant, I think you bring in the real life thing of like, it's not not nature's dumb, but you say like nature is fine, like it's gonna be fine, everything's fine, this happens, like literally just use real world climate change denier arguments and just put them in there, be like, yeah, that happens all the time. You can't believe everything that you hear about that,
There's
More
been heavy
carbon
weather,
dioxide.
weird stuff happening forever. Don't make a big deal out of it. Just keep living your life. Drive
More
your
carbon
monster
dioxide
trucks to
is
work. It's
good.
fine.
Because the trees breathe carbon dioxide, so it's good.
Yeah.
And as somebody who is a person who is always fighting for like you said, Bill, man conquering nature, right? It's like you could very easily be like, oh, you know what's natural? Dying at 43 because nobody checked your fucking gallbladder for your whole life. That's natural. You like that? You like that? Or did we innovate some stuff to make it be weird when people die like that? Right. And so on and so forth. And then it's like all those little weird, near right wing earworms that
pieces
get
of
into
truth.
Right. Yeah.
That just get exaggerated because there's some truth there. There's truth in
just
in that. I like it.
Mitigating how much fuel is used by AI and computers. Like the left seems to think that when you do a prompt, it blows up a polar bear. The right seems to think that you could do that a billion jillion times and nothing would ever happen. The truth has to be somewhere in between. There's all this margin for error in there. Anyway, yeah.
So I assume the kid. Oh, go ahead, Bill. Well, I was going to say, like, we talked a lot about the villains, but not the kids. And I'm wondering if, like, how did the kid, like, are the kids the ones that are just like drinking the Kool-Aid and Gaia picks them because she wants to change them, or
Yeah, that's where I was just gonna go. I was wondering if maybe like if the kids, this might be against the idea of Captain Planet, but for some reason, maybe one of the kids at least, the idea that like the kid is the child of somebody in a very privileged place, like a corporate leader, or you know what I mean? Like the kids actually do have direct connections to people that like can like swing climate change one way or the other,
I mean, I would love for the Russian chick to be down with a Russian oligarch, like flip that dynamic, like the kid of Honora's not father-in-law, like those have a girl version of that rich kid that the dude was in Honora going around, and then she gets the power over wind. It's like, what is this? You know what I mean? I love that. She sounds like Dracula. I like all of that jazz, but I do also think that the kids, we need to get them together in some central mass where they experience something all together. I personally, I'm just throwing it out there, wouldn't be interested in like following this kid and that kid and this, and then they meet each other or anything like that. Like if they're involved in a central event that leads to their planetizing, and I think if they are at least part of a maybe the rich girl's an outlier and she's with this group of poors who are on a Greenpeace trip. I'm just throwing it out there. Something weird happens. The Captain Planet jazz starts happening. I don't want to try to define that too quickly. I'm just saying, like, they're away from shit, looking at a natural thing, trying to help the fucking turtles get into the water, whatever the hell. They're
Maybe.
doing something natural, like trying to help the earth, like they're actively doing it, and then some
Or-
weird shit happens.
Or maybe they're at a comic book convention. I know that sounds weird, but like they're already in goofy ass costumes. They already into heroes. They show up to this area, and sure, there's some people outside doing the science thing where they're like, okay, like climate change is gonna kill us all. There's some doomsayers. We see people with protesting and that sort of thing. Maybe we see the main villain at there doing a man on the street type of thing. And then maybe we have Gaia show up at this place and just try to recruit people. Is that ridiculous or something around that area? Do you see what I'm saying? Because if they're already involved with trying to save the planet, then we're not having an arc of these kids learning, right?
I mean, I would just say, like, if that's the arc, which I agree with the arc, then let's take it even deeper. You said the Enora kid. It's like, let's have 5 Enora kids. Gaia picks them for the reasons that they can maybe, make a difference. I think there's some comedy to have in a first act of them having these rings, and just like, how about use exactly what I said as a beginning? This is dorky. This is stupid. Then, they summon Captain Planet, who has no brain of his own because the power is theirs. They use it to have him go buy them alcohol or get them into a club. And it's not until, something happens around the second act where they realize, like, this, it doesn't matter if you're rich or poor or whatever. This is bigger than us, and it's going to take out all of us, and we need to take this seriously because it's real. Like, make them all pricks to start with,
What if, okay, so if they're all the children of various flavors of oligarch, what if, like, they're all tagging along to some sort of Bilderberg group summit where their parents are off doing that? And, but then so just to really literalize everything, what if our Zarm character literally has Gaia, like, magically trapped? Like Sandman at the, Morpheus at the beginning of Sandman, and they find her and she's like dying, and she's like, you must take some of my power, go. So it's just nice and clean. Like, they're all together. They don't really know each other. They've been forced together by their parents. They all are similar in prickish ways, but different personalities. They come across this embodiment of life on Earth who's been trapped magically by our evil guy. They have no idea what's going on. And before they're caught, or with her dying breath or something, she conjures these rings for them. And so they grab them and run away. Now, nobody knows they have the rings, but there's suspicion on them from Zarm or his cronies right away. So it's like, we're just kind of off to the races in a nice, clean, 4 scenes.
And then they got to battle their parents.
Well,
wait, what?
I'm just saying, I think one of the issues I have is rich kids suck, and I don't like them being heroes. That's just my opinion, but I don't know where else.
Thing, Ron, like, that's the point, though. I think that's the point. To me, it's like like I just said, like, it doesn't matter if you're super rich or super poor, because on a long enough timeline, this planet is not going to be able to sustain either of us. So it's like, yeah, I don't like if the rich kids are just rich and their rich families bail them out, the same way I don't like that if Captain Planet just bails them out. But I'm all about having people who I don't agree with in life find their way towards the light. And I think that's something that I'm all about, which is these kids realizing that playing with mommy and daddy's yachts is not what's important. What's important is there's going to be no Earth left if we keep going the way that we're going, and it's up to them to fix it. Like, to me, that's a powerful character arc.
Okay, but I got one caveat that I'd like to throw in. You guys tell me if this is okay. One of the rich kids has brought his poor friend.
Well, I was going to hold on.
Friend is hard.
No, I was going to give you that. Obviously, because, but I think you could go one step further, and it's not just somebody brings their poor friend. I think at this Bilderberg Group, G20 Summit, whatever, they've invited one climate activist. And, you know, it's this woman from a desert somewhere who comes and she brings her child. And they're not from a privileged background, but she is a working class activist who's involved with mutual aid networks, is trying to stop desertification in their jungles. If she lives in Central Africa, if she lives somewhere in South America, like she's coming from there to petition to these people. This is happening and you need to help me stop it. And her kid is the fifth kid, who the four rich kids are like, I don't want to have anything to do with you, you dirty brown person. Well, they got to be multicultural, but you know what I mean? Like, that's the idea.
Mandated. Yep.
Yes. But the idea being that kid then gets the heart ring. And so they think that kid is a loser for the heart ring once they have powers too, because they can all do cool shit. And the one loser kid, I don't even know what this does. Nobody knows what the heart ring does. And so then that kid has to grow into a leadership role where they're all on his or her page. And maybe that's the kid who rallies them to the right mindset so they could start controlling Captain Planet, yada, yada.
So there's only one problem with this pitch. So like everything is perfect.
Yeah.
The only thing that's wrong that we need to kind of work on is Captain Planet is the least interesting character in the Captain Planet movie as of right now. Like,
Well,
I don't know how to make him interesting.
No, I do. Oh, shit. We're getting a call.
Oh, man. Oh, here we go. Content boys on the line. Oh, here we go.
DZ, let's go, baby.
Reboot Crew, what's up? It's your boy Dave. How's everybody feeling today?
So good, Dave.
Well, listen, my good friend, Ted Turner, he entrusted me with this property. And I told him I would deliver an epic for the ages. But I gotta tell you, there's a few things about this I don't like. And there's just a few things I think we could zhuzh it up a little bit. You know, you want to hear these?
You're the boss.
Yeah. Lay them on us.
All right, so first of all, as you may or may not know, anti-woke very in vogue right now. And one of the things that this anti-woke crowd is really on board with, they don't like Greta Thunberg. So I need you to put a Greta Thunberg type character in here as a villain, right? We want to show people that taking care of the planet is cool, but Greta, not cool. So let's make her the villain, but we're still gonna save the planet. Now the other thing is, Captain Planet wears entirely too much clothes.
Ron, I think Ron has a question for you, Dave.
Yeah, go ahead, Swallow.
You know, look, I would never naysay you, but you are asking us to make fun of an autistic kid?
That's your words, not mine. I'm just telling you, a Greta Thunberg type character is the villain. I didn't say it needed to be Greta.
Okay,
That's,
fair. Yeah, no, okay. Cool.
Give
We'll
us
figure
a
that out.
We'll walk the
Libel,
line.
wiggle room. Yeah, thank you.
Now my next thing is, Captain Planet wears entirely too much clothes and his hair is too short. I want long, flowing green locks, and we want to make him sexy. We want the ladies to show up to ogle Captain Planet. And now the third thing, and this, I cannot stress the importance of it. I promised a role in this movie to my good buddy, Kevin James. So make sure that we get Kevin James a top bill in this movie.
Okay.
I'm telling you guys, you do this, Ted Turner, he's gonna be smiling up at us from hell. All right, I'll talk to you later.
I love that David decided that Turner's in hell.
Well,
All right.
man. Okay,
Kevin
I think
James.
we have to get one of the plunder type guys or the venomous scum, one of those weird guys from the Planeteers. Make Kevin James one of those at the summit and have some kind of showy part where he gets drunk on margaritas or something, and that could satisfy that. I don't.
Can he just be one of the rich parents and
I mean,
just makes
yeah.
an ass out of
I
himself?
got an idea.
Go.
It's a little more than maybe, but he said he has to be one of the main characters, right? So what if he's the security guard for Gaia, and he kind of likes Gaia, and he helps the kids along? Is that ridiculous?
You mean the guy who stood by her kidnapped body?
Is he like
he's getting paid to be a security guard. He doesn't really like want to be he's just doing
wait, he's getting paid by the spirit of the earth? Like what payroll company did she use? That doesn't make sense.
I'm saying he's guarding the captivity,
the temple or whatever.
Well, she's under. You said that. Are we still going with the thing where she was being
captured of some
captured? She'd been captured by Zarm and is in like a hidden away area, and they run into that area. Well, what if they see the security guard there and they're being mischievous kids? They're like, wonder what's behind the security guard's place. This guy seems like an idiot, and they trick an obviously dumb Paul Blart into doing something dumb. They get in there, and really all along he was actually letting them find Gaia.
Can I ask?
I just think it's I just want to say, for the Portly community, why with all the security guard shit?
That's my question.
Really, yeah, what the fuck, Ron? I mean, God, us Portly people could do more than stand by places that won't have us inside them. We could do more than that.
Why make him a random security guard instead of just like making him loot and plunder or one of these guys?
That's what I'm trying to told you.
Okay.
By the way, if we're getting literal, Zaslav said top billing, not main star. So
That's
you know
true.
what? It could be at the very end, blah 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 blah. And Kevin James is, I don't know, farting Colonel Plunder butthole. I don't care.
I mean, look, I think we could kind of do everything we just said, where if he's playing loot and plunder or one of these guys, he could also be one of the kids' dads at the summit. He could also be working with Zarm, and then he could have a change of heart. Like, I don't think every one of the parents maybe comes around, but if we're going to make this a treacly movie, maybe they do. But at least Kevin James, aka Loot and Plunder, can come around by the end of the movie to be like, oh my God, my kids have shown me the light. Screw this Zarm guy. I'm going to start being more responsible with my company. You know, something like that.
Okay, well, while we're building on that, I think he should be the Wheeler. Wheeler is the fire kid. I think that's great. Fire kid's dad. I think that's good. That's a nice little, he's fighting against his dad. He's more of a rebel. He's got the fiery disposition, the old Johnny Storm recipe.
Hey, you know what? I just want to point out, like, look, chubby people can also be linemen.
Taste testers.
They can be chefs. I just wanted to point that out. I don't want you guys to think that I
pressure sock models.
Professional bowlers.
No.
Professional wrestlers too. I'm just saying.
Oh God.
Good times.
Oh God. But yeah,
we gotta. I mean, there's a couple things we got to address here. The Greta Thunberg thing. I mean, so it's essentially like we have to take a teenage climate activist and make them the villain. I don't know how much we want to lampshade that it's Greta Thunberg, but like there could be somebody who's, it's like controlled opposition for Zarm.
I was gonna say, I have an idea. What if it's like a plant or something by Zarm to show like they're extremists, they're dangerous, and really she's
false
just
flag.
Yeah, exactly. That
like
might
that.
be
That's
the way
nice.
to get around it,
Yep.
Yeah, that's
Done.
nice. And it also puts us away from so-called eco-terrorism, because a lot of the stuff in the later action parts of this movie should be able to be qualified as eco-terrorism if we're doing our jobs right. but
Yeah.
we're distancing ourselves from the actual act of eco-terrorism by having this character. I mean, Zaslav, I mean, he's got too many teeth in his head, but he's got some ideas in there too.
All right, so you
And
know,
The
Kevin
locks,
James,
that's easy. We're all into that. That's fun.
a long-haired, even less clothed Captain Planet. I mean,
Well,
there's
I was
look,
thinking about the look real quick, just
Yeah, go.
aesthetically. There's a whole new line of comics that maybe I'm jacking this from, but Captain Planet should look like the Earth, little patches of different Earth. You know what I'm saying? The topography coming together and something similar to the colors, we know, but just more motivated, like redness of mountains around his chest areas, something like that, or like in his hair, green, like foliage, like locks and stuff. We don't have to work really hard on that. I just think the shininess part, how we're going to communicate the shininess, like what parts of him are the metal of the earth, meaning the minerals that are coming out of the soil, the gold, the platinum, all that stuff, the little parts where it's busting out of them. That's where the art department get nuts. But you understand the vision I'm pitching? He's like the earth, all of its minerals, all of its different silicates, all of its different soils, all of its different topography.
Yeah,
as
Conglomerated
long
up
as
into a
it
man.
still vaguely looks recognizable, like from a distance, as Captain Planet, you know.
Yeah. We're not gonna do that like make it look like every damn thing. You know what I'm saying? Like that amorphous Eternals type of shit, where it's like this motherfucker look like everything.
Well,
It's got to look like something.
And maybe we shouldn't go into casting, but I mean, a couple of easy ones, Jason Momoa. And if we're having him play a dumb himbo,
I mean,
it's
honestly,
kind of funny.
I mean,
like
Jason
Jason-
Momoa, Channing Tatum, go down the line of the people who can.
By the way,
do a little comedy
one idea
on a
I just want to say, like for the himbo thing, can we make it at the end like Captain Planet? We realized like never actually was an airhead. He just was waiting for these kids to kind of like give him
encourage them.
real direction.
I like that.
I don't know. There's just something about a fucking airhead Captain Planet, even at the end, unless that's the joke. But it's like,
Well, I mean, I think
call
we've
the thing
grown,
Captain Planet, you know?
Now we've grown. I think we've maybe grown past him being an idiot, but it is still.
He's a drone. He's mindless.
But I also wanted to communicate, like when you're talking about like maybe the first time they take him out, it's like buy some beer and stuff. I don't want to Shazam him up too much. I personally think that the first time we see Captain Planet, it should almost be Jurassic Park early scenes level scary. It's the Earth coming to life as a giant golem to do superhuman feats in front of you. You've never seen anything superhuman in your life. It's got to have some sort of impact that first time that they summon him up.
Maybe 7 foot tall type of look.
I was just gonna say, like, I kind of love the idea of Captain Planet being like 15 feet tall. Like he rises out of the ground and pieces of him kind of like come shooting from everywhere, and it assembles into this giant sort of husk of a thing. It might also be cool that like Captain Planet literally looks more monstrous until they kind of get a better idea of what they should be doing. Like he doesn't have to start out looking like a hunky, long-haired, silver god Earthman. He could start out looking a little bit more like, I don't know if you remember like the giants in Darren Aronofsky's Noah, where they were like these weird kind of homunculus made of stone and trees and stuff.
I'll trust you.
All right.
Just more rocks and sand and stuff than like an ant or something. Not really too swamp thingy. There's this nice place that you could strike with the right.
I love that
elements
idea,
right
and it
places.
goes along with the idea that we need man and Earth to come together to create. Like to save the Earth, to save human beings on the planet.
We need to see
as the character starts getting, as people start coming together more, it starts becoming a little more human, but still has Earth aspects, right?
Yes. Let me. Sorry, I just had a lightning bolt as you were talking, Ron. What if the heart ring is the suppressed good side of Zarm, and so you've got earth, wind, water, fire, and that's nature. That's Gaia's power. But also within Gaia is the part of Zarm that he rejected a long time ago. And that's heart. That's essentially human empathy, right? So when they summon Captain Planet, it's almost like the Ghostbusters crossing the streams. Like the four non-heart kids do it by accident. And it's like, oh my God, if we all use our powers together, it summons a monster. But the heart kid is still like, I don't know what to do with this ring. But as the movie progresses and Zarm finds out that these kids have the rings, the one he wants to get is Heart, because Heart is the piece of him that could heal him / defeat him. And so he can't have that Heart kid out there. And it's only when the Heart kid figures out what his power is, he infuses the good side of man into the monster that the other four rings create. And that's Captain Planet.
Boom.
By our powers combined.
I mean, does that make sense?
No, it's like almost perfect. My only thing is like, are we waiting too long to show Captain Planet? Because I assume that's going into your third act, right?
I would put that more at like a midpoint where it's almost like we could get a really cool Captain Planet action sequence. So Act 1 is obviously the kids are together, they meet each other, they get, they go skulking around because their parents aren't paying attention. We meet the parents. And then the end of Act 1, they come across Gaia. They end up somewhere they're not supposed to. They find Gaia. She gives them the rings. It's like, oh my God, let's get out of here. But now Zarm's cronies know that something's going on. I think in Act 1, we meet the parents, we meet the kids. This summit is happening. We introduce Zarm. All the parents are trying to, get on Zarm's side, and the kids are just like, we don't want to be here. They go off, have a little bit of contentious meet cutes, and then they end up at the end of Act 1. That's where they meet Gaia. They get the rings, and now they're on the run from some security guards who are not Kevin James. But Zarm, from the beginning, knows that, something's amiss. Then the first half of Act 2 is about the four kids messing around with their powers. The Heart kid's kind of on the outside looking in, doesn't know what his power is. But the midpoint of the movie is where the Heart kid finally activates his ring. They summon the true form of Captain Planet that is still more of like an aimless drone, to your point, Billy. And then he vanishes after helping them escape or defeat something, or, just a nice mid-movie set piece. And then then Captain Planet's gone. And then the kids sort of have to regroup and be like, whoa, what did we just do? What was that? And meanwhile, then Zarm is like, oh my God, he has the heart ring. I got to get that kid. And so we get a good Captain Planet set piece. They can maybe even summon Captain Planet again in the second half of Act 2, presumably before Zarm kidnaps Heart Ring Kid or reclaims the Heart Ring or whatever, to have you could have some funny interactions with him where they start to realize like, oh, he doesn't, like, we need to tell him what to do. We need to give him an agenda, yada, yada. And then, yes, finally, they get their act together. Heart Kid reclaims the Heart Ring, and then you have big Captain Planet action in Act 3. And I don't want it to get into that Power Rangers 2017 area where it's like, oh, they're Power Rangers for like 10 minutes at the end of the movie. But I don't know. That's the structure I'm seeing right now.
I mean, it could happen even faster. It could happen in the first act, couldn't it? Like, they find the rings. We meet the parents. Maybe we show some like terrible things happening, climate change wise, but of course people denying it. And then there's the summit. The kids find the ring, and when they find the rings, get the rings from this crazy lady, they accidentally do it right away. So we see Captain Planet in the first act, and maybe just wreck shop on accident and then is gone. And then that way we see Captain Planet earlier, and then you go on the adventure after that. Because then after the first act, Zarm immediately knows that the ring is the problem. So if we do that a little faster, do you see what I'm saying?
Yeah. I don't know why. I'm not going to get stuck on this, but just let me pitch it last time. I like the idea that the first time we see Captain Planet, it's literally a monster, because I just like how that subverts expectations. You know, I like
and
it.
if they're
I
inside
don't,
the summit,
right. And like, I don't want to hold Captain Planet for so long it becomes annoying. But I do think there's something interesting to this idea that, like, he is the planet. Well, the planet without heart is kind of this giant directionless homunculus, right?
Yeah.
And it would just be cool to literalize that. And it also, I think, goes a long way to showing how important the heart ring actually is, because it's like, this is what gives that creature mind and purpose and personality. Without it, it's just the golem.
okay, cool. How are you guys feeling, Ed?
I also think we need to work in some gags before the end where the characters like get to use their rings and jazz, because again, cementing that the power is theirs by them finally realizing some shit at the end is great, but along the way they earn these different things by at least learning a little bit how to use their powers, learning a little bit how to be teamwork guys, having a little bit of agency. So if we engineer some kind of action scenes in there where it's like they can't, because part of me, I understand that Hart knowing that he's part of it is the thing that makes Captain Planet super dope. But if they can make Captain Planet with with only the 4 of them, I get that, but there's something weird to like. It's more like Hart just being in the driver's seat, Hart knowing that he's part of the process, Hart believing that he's part of the process. You know what I'm saying? Like even if it does take all 5 rings, the first couple times they do it, he's not involved really, and it is a homunculus, and it doesn't have any direction or whatever. I think that could be cool because he doesn't believe in himself. You know what I mean?
Yes. I'm just thinking from a plot mechanics standpoint, what if like a giant hurricane or flood or wildfire, like what if a disaster happens during the summit? Just to keep this thing moving and like keep the complications coming. And so then it becomes, well, now we have these powers, and Hart again can be the one to be like, we have to go help the people, because Hart is coming from a place of charity and, you know, activism. And the kids are like, what the hell do you mean? And so it's almost like they're resistant to the very idea. It's like we want to use the powers to help ourselves, and Hart is like, no, we got to go and help all the people in whatever city they're in or what have you.
100%. You got to do that. You're right, Bill.
That just keeps it moving from the standpoint of giving them opportunities to use the powers for something other than like running away from security guards.
Right. And the Hart kid, just real quick, one gag of the Hart kid being able to be like, okay, somebody's winding over there, somebody's earthing over there. There's a lot of stuff going on, and the Hart kid is able to be like, I really need some help, and like emanate these waves, like people come and lift the car off a baby or something. You know what I'm saying? Because it's the power of like people come and help you. You ask for help. We're one big organism. We have heart. Showing heart to your fellow organism, you can lift the car off a baby. You know what I'm saying? And he's like, damn, it's like these people came from nowhere, but like they were like summoned by something. He's like, huh? And he's like looking at his ring. You know, it's something simple to be like, this is not useless. It just takes imagination. It's very much like Reed Richards' powers or something of this nature.
Yeah.
I mean, I think the idea of treating the heart power as essentially empathy, like heart power is just empathy. And that's the part of Zarm that he cut out of himself in order to become the, you know, win at all costs type of character. I mean, that's the exact on the nose sort of metaphor that we want for this parable, you know?
And that's why he wants to possess it, to put it away somewhere, know that it's there, but never be menaced by it again. Never have it roaming and messing up his plans, always knowing where it is.
What if one of the parts is when they are in this, I don't know how early you want the disaster to happen, but what if when the disaster happens, they summon Captain Planet because they've already done it one time. Let's say this is the 3rd time. I don't know, however you want to do it. But they bring Captain Planet to save them, but Hart is like, no way, we've got to save the people. And then Captain Planet goes and saves the people because that's what Hart wants to do. He's the pilot. Something like that.
What if this natural disaster happens? Like they get the rings, they're coming back, they summon this Captain Planet. I keep wanting to say Captain America. This Captain Planet monstrosity, and because he's just kind of this wild force of nature, he's the one that sets off whatever this reaction is, and they have to use their rings to kind of contain whatever it is, because I would think
Okay.
that Captain Planet without heart is probably like the scariest parts of nature, right?
Sure.
You know,
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean,
And then then we can use Ed's idea at that point.
but also
That's
it keeps the kids as active story participants instead of passive. They're not coming like, oh, this thing just miraculously came, we can now use this plot device. It's like, no, they accidentally started whatever that thing they have to clean up is.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, I get that. Yeah.
I love the emotional aspect of that, where they have to also then take responsibility for the fact that they unleashed those disasters. Their
Yes.
hubris and their lack of care is what unleashed the disasters, which again is just some great on the nose metaphoring.
Okay.
But it's for kids, then
100%.
put it on the nose. Yeah.
I mean, I wonder if it's not like going back to the idea of Gaia giving them the ticking clock. I don't know that we need to keep that, but if the first time they unleash Monster Captain Planet, what if it sets off like a chain reaction? So we literally have tornadoes during a flood with forest fires and a rock slide. You know what I mean? And so it's like this, it's not just, oh, we need to escape, the fire or the earthquake. It's like, oh my God, like the apocalypse is happening in this city that we're in. Like which again just ups the stakes for like the kids, and of course their rich parents are just like, we need to get the F out of here. And Hart could be like, no, everybody needs help. We did this. Now we need to fix it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I like it.
And it also creates an interesting scene at some point where it's like, if you summoned this, why would you ever want? I would throw that ring as far away as I could. So it's like there's some sort of discussion about choice, like, but what if we could, control this? What?
I think that
it,
should be definitely led by Hart and maybe another kid that pipes up like, yeah, I think Hart's telling the truth, buddies. Blah, 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 blah. Yeah, I love that jazz. Win one from the Gipper, Captain Planet.
And then simultaneously, they're all dodging Zarm at the same time.
Well, I wonder if we could even go back to what Billy said earlier. If they become scared of the rings and want to get rid of the rings, Zarm could either show up to, in the classic Luciferian way, why don't you give those rings to me? I'll make sure nothing bad happens with them. Or Zarm could show up with his weird, gauntlet devices and be like, don't worry, kids. You use these things I created. That'll help you control the powers. But it's really because like he's trying to turn them into his foot soldiers or what have you. Either way,
that's essentially the boiled down plot of that episode, which was, let me help you use your powers to destroy everything. So I think that works. There's no problem with taking something that worked from the show and just kind of reusing
Absolutely.
it, recycling it.
Well, so we've got a pretty great skeleton of a story here. Can we move into casting? And I think maybe works us all the way back around to like, do we want this to be live action or do we want this to be a cartoon? Because honestly, Zaslav's request for a hunky dreamboat Captain Planet notwithstanding, like I could see this being a really kinetic, cool cartoon, almost in the style of like the Mitchells versus the Machines, just like very kind of big over the top, where I think that might be the coolest way to visualize like fire tornadoes during mudslide floods, all that kind of a thing. Not saying we have to, but I don't know. There's just something in me that's kind of tickled by that idea.
Well, I think we should settle on kid. I'm just saying. I just think they should be kids, because like if they're anywhere near Compass Mentis and they're like still having should we be environmentalists? Should we care about the earth? It's like, I don't know, man. I don't want to see those people converted, because those people convert to anything. I want to see people who are like intensely privileged by this stuff and are slightly too young to actually know better, because this is the world they've always known. They drive in giant Bentleys that eat up 1 billion gallons a millimeter. They fly in private jets. You know what I'm saying? The most of them, except for Hart. Good job, Ron. Except for Hart. So I kind of like all of that. I was going to pitch for the black kid, frankly, just remember that kid in Spider-Man Homecoming who was on like the science team? He was a black kid and he was saying funny shit.
Yes.
I love that kid to be Earth. This shit is hilarious, dude.
Yeah.
Like I just think it's funny. He's a funny kid.
Totally fair.
Well, so then your vote is for live action.
I would, even if it was a voice, I think he'd do a funny voice. You know what I'm saying? Like when Hannibal Buress voices stuff, it's still pretty funny. But yeah, okay. If we're gonna make that decision, what are we making it based on? If we're looking at Zaslav's content principle, flattening out everything from the Mona Lisa to a fucking scat video into the same sort of commercial paste. If we're doing that with this, what is most effective for this particular idea for real? As far as we're going to sell it and make money, how? What's most effective for real?
I mean, I think also he said a hunky person that gets women to come see it. And I don't know if there's hunky cartoons that women go see besides anime fans. So
that's very fair.
I mean, I think here's my rationale for doing live action. You might kill two birds with one stone because the millennials are always going to be curious to see what a live action Captain Planet looks like.
That's a fair point too.
And then you already know you're getting the kids in if there's a kid cast and blah blah blah.
I can go with that. I think my strongest counter argument is just trying to sustain franchises with kids as the main star is really hard because of how fast kids age.
Fair.
That's true. Well, do we pick like that kid's 23? He's playing kids and shit, but that kid's 23. So I figure we could get somebody who's like 23 looking young, and then they get 30 or something like that, and they're still Spider-Man in it up. You know what I mean?
I mean, I almost feel like you go the complete opposite direction and go like Harry Potter with this. Like cast literal 10-year-olds, and then they've got a good 10 years in which you can make a couple sequels.
Okay.
I mean, how old were we thinking that these kids were? In my head, they were like
I was
14,
thinking
15.
Oh yeah, in my head they're teens, but nobody ever employs teens to play teens because usually teens suck at
sure.
teens.
No, I just like if we go the Harry Potter route, are you saying like way
because in my
age up or
because in my head, I think all these kids are junior high because they're still like dependent enough on their parents that like they're just coming with to hang out at this summit. Like they still kind of feel like they don't feel autonomous enough where it's like, okay, mom and dad, you're going to some stupid business thing. Like I'm going to chill on the yacht with my buddies from school. Like I just feel like they can't be of that age.
No, you're right. You're right. And when it comes to casting, then that means we're just going to choose some adults and whatever Zaslav's, Nickelodeon, whatever train they've got to get like young kids in, that's what they're going to choose from. And we should try to do the adults. One of
that's my
Kevin
feeling.
James.
I mean, I'm totally open to a counter argument there. I just think that like one of the things that's so appealing about everything we've been talking about is that, the kids are really stand-ins for the audience. And I just feel like, especially with the idea of longevity of the franchise in mind, the idea that you kind of grow up with those kids the same way that you grew up with the Harry Potter kids, for example, would be compelling.
Yeah,
it's fine. Like I think
I'm cool with it.
12 years old maybe is the sweet spot. That kind of, and then I'm with Ron. You just do the biggest casting call in the country so that I don't have to Hail Mary Google some 12-year-olds right now. And
by the way, could also like on a meta level, that could be a really compelling aspect of the movie where it's like we did an international casting call for the greatest child actors from 4 different 5 different countries. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it's like
100%.
we're going to put together this Benetton ad of the greatest child actors we found from all over the globe, and we're going to break 5 brand new stars for you. Like,
Hey,
that's
let's
cool.
pitch it to Zaslav as a reality show, like how High School Musical, the musical, or whatever the series they did that. Like, let's do that for this.
That's kind of
Dude, oh,
brilliant.
and really quickly, I think once people see this movie fully shot, they'll notice that Water gets to do a lot of stuff, and she's Chinese, and she's not canonically Chinese. She speaks Chinese and speaks Japanese because they couldn't decide what type of Asian they wanted her to be in the original
And
cartoon.
they couldn't decide or didn't know.
I prefer to think they couldn't decide which one would be more politically fucked up when we were looking at it later. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But anyway, in ours, she'll be canonically Chinese, so that the Chinese people will love this kind of planet. We're not going to make them look like polluters and messed up people. A Chinese person will help this group kick some ass.
In fact,
100%.
her evil father is from Hong Kong, just to really make sure the party is behind us.
Exactly. He's from a little island ruled until recently by Brits. He doesn't know real Chinese politics. Yep. We're gonna sell out in China, dude. We're gonna do it.
All right. So I mean, I think the 2 biggest questions are, can we settle on someone for Captain Planet, and can we settle on someone for Gaia? Actually, and Zarm. I mean, I feel like Zarm could be a really kind of meaty scenery chewing role. I don't know why I'm picturing Alan Cumming, but that's just, I'm going to throw that out
Can
there.
I throw out just, you're all going to hate it, and that's fine, but at least I can have it on record. In the tradition of Sting being the voice of Zarm, who's the most charitable person on the face of the planet? Bono. Let's have Bono be Zarm. He is the best choice, because you just look at that guy and you're like, this guy, he cares about people. But I don't know if you're a U2 fan, back in the day, he had this like kind of evilish alter ego character that he brought out, like Mephisto or something rather.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going Bono on this one, baby.
It's interesting.
You know who I'm going? I'm going this. I believe you're right that he should be a song man, and I believe you're right. He should have a lyrical speaking voice and a melodious tone. I'm thinking Hugh Jackman. I think this is a great role for his theater background, the giantness of when he's zerching up with Zarm power and he's getting close to the rings and all this kind of demon stuff is coming out of him. He could play that. He could play the soft CEO type who's just sort of stuttering and just doesn't know how hot he is and how cool he is. And I'm just at this summit. Dude, he could do it. I think he could do a really good job of all the different Zarms we would want to have him do. Hugh Jackman.
I'm gonna go with DJ Qualls.
You know what? I don't hate it. Ron. This is a scenario where DJ Qualls could actually play that role. I do, though. I like what Ed said, because Hugh Jackman has the manly aura about him to really lean into the kind of like manosphere influencer archetype. But also, the self-awareness to turn that into a caricature. So that could be interesting.
And holy shit, how dare I do this? How did I forget about Jared Padalecki?
I thought Jensen Ackles.
Jensen Ackles the easy answer, but he never has long hair. I don't even know what he looks like with long hair. Jared Padalecki has long hair already. And though everybody hates Jared Padalecki, they all still think he's hot. So he is eye candy. I still think Momoa is the better choice, though. I was just mostly joking on that one.
I was going to say, you nailed it with Momoa. Go ahead.
But like Momoa, okay, but let's say we couldn't get Momoa. Now we can get Momoa. Come on, we're with the Momoa people. Let's just put it out there. We could get Momoa. You need a toe? I can get you a toe, dude. So let's say we couldn't, though. Some kind of weird thing. Does Lobo shooting conflicts or something? Who would we pick? Somebody that's actually supposedly hunky to broads and and is able to pull off long hair. it's pretty easy to me to
It is.
say
It
that, but the
is.
freaking Chris Hemsworth could
Yeah.
step right in here and
It's the easy
miggity murder this role. It would be.
By the way,
insane.
gentlemen, there are such thing as wigs. We do not need to limit ourselves to those who can naturally grow long hair.
Well, then it's
saying.
obviously The Rock.
Well, yeah, I'm just saying the Rock.
God, no,
No, that is a bad call.
Well, he wouldn't want to lose a fight. So we can't.
On the flip side, I don't know if he could sell the long hair. I was going to say Cena would be all right, although Cena's not as big as he used to be.
He's also, I don't think he's the dreamboat that Zaslav wants. You know, it's like,
Yeah.
do women
he's just
rule over
buff.
Cena? Yeah.
I don't
It's
know,
like
some do.
he's a classic male gaze,
Well,
like handsome guy. It's like, oh yeah, I
Roman
love that guy.
Reigns.
I love the
Well, then if we're gonna go
Volkswagens.
Cavill, if we're just choosing hot guys, and we already seen him with long hair.
Honestly,
not bad actually.
that's a pretty good call.
It's interesting, but I just think like his agent puts Captain Planet on his desk and says, yeah, you're flying, but like, oh yeah, well, I get to make up my own mind and do my own stuff. No, you're controlled by middle schoolers, and they just sort of tell you what to do, and you're like kind of a moss man for like 40 minutes. I don't know, man.
Does Henry Cavill have taste in movies in this world? Because I don't. What world is that?
I don't think that's going to be a problem.
If I'm his agent, I'm steering him away from that shit. But yeah, if we could get him, yeah, it would be very meta. Very, very meta.
Well, let's be real. This would be one of the hardest sells in Hollywood. I could see the IMDb trivia would be just a list of like 30 actors that passed on Captain Planet.
Yeah,
absolutely. So, you know,
but you know who wouldn't pass on? Though he's not buff enough. Keanu Reeves.
Yes, he would. Like, he's too old at this point. His body's
falling. Yeah, him and Brad Pitt, I think Brad Pitt would give it a whirl and be like, I don't think so at the end.
No, Brad Pitt would read and be like, I don't get it, and then pass on.
Totally.
I don't know. I'm not using a weird accent or eating enough stuff.
Wasn't Leonardo DiCaprio like trying to make a Captain Planet movie like in real life?
Honest to God, I could like. There is a world, and it might not be a probable one, but there is a world where Leonardo DiCaprio would play Zarm, where Leonardo DiCaprio would play like
100%,
a meaty, over-the-top villain role.
Yes, yeah, I'm really on board with that.
I kind of need that at this point. Now that you said that, because he is the new breed. He looks. I'm surprised billionaires don't. Obviously, I know why billionaires don't look like Leonardo DiCaprio, but I'm saying I'm surprised more billionaires don't try to style themselves like that. Like he doesn't have buff guy, tough lantern jaw features. He's sort of feline looking like a male Michelle Pfeiffer or something, but he's still hot to broads. And he's got a pot belly now and everything, settling into middle age. He's my role model at this point. And I don't know why more people aren't going for that look. You see these billionaires.
You're right. Like he's not jacked. But you would never say he's not masculine, which is perfect. Right. You know,
perfect for this technocrat.
Wall Street kind of Django characters in mind a little bit.
Yes,
you know?
yes. That's great, Bill. I mean, it's because sometimes when we pie in the sky, I'm like, oh wow, really? Good job. But that's great. Leo,
and we already know he's interested in the property, so it's not too far of a stretch.
Yeah,
Captain Planet, I still don't know.
Look, I still think Cavill's great, but also one of our other picks that we've picked before that I think is an out of the box pick is Adam Driver.
He would not do it. He has taste.
He definitely would not do it.
This is a good movie, and I want you guys to stop saying these people have taste and wouldn't do this movie.
You know what? It's just, like, no. He just hold on. He does not have taste. Megalopolis 65. Shut the fuck up. He has no taste. No. And I actually kind of like that. I'm with you, Ron. I'm with you. I think Adam Driver's a great choice.
Yeah.
Huh. There's a battle line drawn.
Yep. No. Yeah. Fuck this side. I'm with you, Ron.
You know what? If you want mullet guys, it's Jean-Claude Van Damme. Period.
Okay. But you know what? I gotta say,
we're done.
I have, as a stupid fan, I have seen Adam Driver rock a sweet mullet before.
Oh yeah.
I mean, Oh,
Look,
that's
okay.
just green.
Look,
and he looks kind of
Adam
weird, like
Driver-
some kids put them together.
Adam Driver does stuff just for the sake of doing it. You know, Megalopolis, he wanted to work with Coppola. 65, he wanted to headline an action movie. Maybe he wants to do a kids movie. So maybe that's what hooks him. He's doing one for the family.
He seems like the kind of guy that would give a shit about the environment. So it also has that going for him.
I mean, and we could do something that Zaslav would really hate. We put a thing in there where we're like, we give a portion of the profits to some kind of environmental, you know, something.
So that's your battle with him, not mine.
but dude, just listen to Captain Planet dialogue in his voice. Do your little synthesizer in your head and hear the type of stuff Captain Planet's going to be saying, and hear it in Adam Driver's voice. I like it. I think it's good.
I agree. Okay. All right, I'm coming around. All right.
Now you're infected with the infection with there's like a zombie bit this guy and then bit this guy, and then whoops comes over here and bites this guy. And I'm gnawing on Bill. He's like, I gotta chop my leg off.
And if John Oliver is correct about anything, it's that everybody wants to be bit by Adam Driver. So
All
right. Well,
you know, yeah, he's a good one to be in the room. If we have a room,
He's got Bill. Do you remember that scene in Last Jedi with the shirt off?
Yeah.
He can get it.
You ever seen him in that perfume commercial running on the beach with the horses? I mean, come on.
Well, I'm the one that B-rolls these shows, so I will watch it probably a handful of times.
All right. We got to move on. So let's finally talk about Gaia. We need a female lead other than the children. I mean, there's probably room for a female industrialist villain type. I know that somebody was played by Meg Ryan in the original cast. But
I think that was Dr. Blight. It was like a chick named Dr. Blight who was like about, you know, blighting shit, you know, ruining the yeah, basically.
I don't know that we need to get that granular and like cast every single one of these sort of like side industrialist villains, but I do feel like Gaia is an important enough character. You know, the spiritual opposite of Zarm, the person who's going to empower the kids, could be a nice sort of small role for an older venerable actress, or even a younger venerable actress, or even something else.
I've got a weird one.
Yeah, who could be the spirit of the earth, Ron?
Iman Vellani from Miss Marvel. He's young, but I think she'd be rad.
A young spirit of the earth. That's kind of interesting.
That's kinda
The spirit of the earth isn't all old and shit. That is interesting. Like, it doesn't age. It's like, or it's like, yeah, look at me, I'm a teen because of what you guys did to me. I used to be 5. But yeah,
I mean, there's something kind of interesting too, that like when the kids encounter, because Iman Vellani still reads as like a teenager, and like kids encounter this trapped girl and she's like a teenager.
Yeah,
it's even more disconcerting. That's interesting.
Yeah, and it's at the G20 whatever summit, so it's like, yeah, of course they got trapped,
right?
Epsteined up stuff in here. It's like, oh, I told you, like one of the kids. We can't do that.
No.
One of the kids be like, I told you they do this type of stuff. I told you.
Oh, that would be some catnip for the conspiracy theorists online. Look what they're putting in this movie.
Oh, that's good.
Get a few billionaires around, and all of a sudden, now people coming up missing. Oh man, that's funny. But yeah, I like that casting. We're talking about a woman that could play that. I think if she plays that, and then we have the woman that is duped by Zarm into being the eco-terrorist that we're supposed to be worried about, but isn't the big deal. I don't know what, it's kind of a thankless role unless that character comes back to be like, shit, I know
she's got to be young, right? Or younger.
I don't think, right? I don't know if she has to be as young as the kids.
She could be an older teenager.
Well, how old is Greta?
Well, now she's like
Greta's
19.
in her 20s, yeah.
Yeah, she's in her 20s.
It's 20s, yeah.
Honestly, like, I don't know, that could be again just sort of a nice supporting role for somebody. Honestly, that I feel like that's a role that's going to be
filled with
Well, it'll be like somebody who started as a child actor in another country and has like a bunch of TV credits, and like this is like their first big movie gig.
That's
I'm
really
thinking of like
specific.
no, because you want to know why? Because I'm thinking of the girl who played Ted Kord's daughter in the Blue Beetle movie, where
Hmm.
she couldn't act great, but she was very pretty and she carried the role just fine. And it was a little bit of a thankless role. And then I looked her up and it's like, oh, she's been on Brazilian TV for like 10 years. It's literally going to be like that type of person.
Okay. I mean, it could be, she's probably too big an actress for this role, but Sadie Sink from Stranger Things.
Oof. Yeah. She's probably way too big.
Too big now, right?
Yeah.
Although
I don't
she
know,
could also be
but
Gaia.
but if you told her like you get to work with Leo and Adam Driver,
That's true. If
say no,
you're Leo's Eve Tessmacher in this movie.
yeah.
Well, especially if they come back as, like I said, if they get duped into doing something dumb, and then like, oh, they get like saved from their youthful indiscretion or whatever because it's a movie.
Yeah, I
you know,
could
we
see
don't want
I
to
could
go to
see like
jail.
in the third act, like there's some peril and like one of them is going to be kind of like taken out by something, and then at the last second, she helps because she realizes, I don't fucking know. But that old trope where the
It's
henchman
literally
comes around.
Yeah, it's literally Miss Tessmacher taking the kryptonite off Superman in the third act
Yeah,
of
sure,
Superman.
fine.
Yeah.
Honestly,
No, I got the
don't think
Teshmacher
Sadie.
reference.
I don't think Sadie Sink is out of the question if that's the case. If that character gets an arc, and you get to work with Leo and Adam Driver, that's enough.
Yeah, totally agreed on that.
That would also be a great role for like a pop star girl. Olivia Rodrigo's probably like too big, but like one of those girls who is big as a pop star and maybe just wants to move into acting. So it's like, here's like an impactful, but also like low commitment role. If you just want to show up in this movie, that could be a good way to go with it.
And all of us know those those musicians.
Or
off
just
the top
like
of our heads.
one of those, like a viral British girl like that. They played this one song. I'm not going to sing it right now, but you're probably hearing it in your head if you're watching it real time. One of those weird British pop songs that's on a bunch of memes. That girl, she's in the movie.
Whoever is today's Rebecca Black, just get her.
Oh my God.
It's Friday.
All right. On that note, let's move on to our final segment. Who's directing this thing? Yeah.
The fact that we are putting this much brain power into Captain Planet, somebody's out there disgusted and somebody out there is impressed. And we're speaking to you, impressed person. We do this for you. Directing this particular thing, I think really does take a particular set of skills. Yeah. I think one thing they would have to do is obviously be good with effects and have effects be like naturalistic in their movies for very obvious reasons, since most of the effects would be manipulating natural materials and blah, blah, blah. I also think that they would have to be able to work with like kids, because there's a lot of people who just, I don't know, man. I just wouldn't, I don't think that they can get the best performance out of the kids. And if the kids are wooden in this and it looks good, we're going down, gentlemen.
I agree.
Well, I got one, and of course it's the only, I know like 12 directors, but it's Robert Rodriguez from doing Spy Kids.
That's actually interesting because Robert Rodriguez, first of all, knows how to stretch a dollar. Second of all, has worked with every type of special effects imaginable, some for better, some for worse, and has recently been directing on The Mandalorian and other Star Wars projects, which have a very similar tone to what we're talking about here.
And Quentin would vouch for him to Leo. Because at first it was like, there's no way that Robert would work or Leo would want to work with him. But if Quentin vouches for him.
See, that's producing right there.
That's for Billy Bill. No, I also think that the one thing he would really get about this is like, there's going to have to be some operatic storytelling, like the rich kids with their crystal ware, and then they go downstairs and rescue a chick, and then all hell breaks loose as these rings pop out and break up stuff and all this. It's a lot going on, and it's operatic storytelling. There's going to be major shifts in the story that are just like, it's this type of movie, and then it's not. And they're going to have to be able to handle those tones. And I think he's directed almost every tone of movie, from like the Lava Girl and Shark Boy shit where nothing means anything to like really, hardcore gangsters going to Mexico,
Yeah. Yeah, that's a very intriguing pick. And I don't know, the things that come to mind are a little bit easy for me. Like one that comes to mind is, give it to Greta Gerwig and see if she could put an interesting twist on it like she did with Barbie. John Favreau is everybody's favorite choice to direct anything effects heavy. I don't know if either one of those is realistic or makes a ton of sense, but I don't know. I'm not coming up with that great dark horse pick.
You guys are better when it comes to like tours.
Maybe Bryce.
Oh, that's
but
interesting.
Bryce isn't bad, but I still like Robert Rodriguez better.
Yeah, that's the thing. It's tough because I don't know who's an up and coming director making like 4-quadrant kids movies.
Yeah,
that's the tough thing. And like tonally, I almost want to say David F. Sandberg, but that guy is just making clunkers lately. And even that original Captain Marvel, it's like, I don't know if that quite, it's working in the original Shazam is like working in the same tonal playground, but it doesn't feel like doesn't feel like what we would want this to be necessarily.
It also, honestly, bro, and I hate to be this guy, but it needs somebody who remembers the 90s.
Yeah.
Because I think if you don't, you're doomed to repeat some of the weirdness of it. If you're aware of it, you can stay away from it even more. And you have the distance to both see it as something that could have some value, but also recognize it was this quaint thing from the past. Like you get both of those perspectives. They're not laughing at it the whole time. We're actually we really figured out a way to make that ridiculous heart bullshit work. So we tried. We gave it the good old gusto. And I want the audience.
Someone who also understands that at the end of this, you want the audience to leave feeling good and uplifted like a good superhero movie does, but at the same time, like be very aware enough, like, hey, this is real. This is not just a pretend problem. This is a real problem, and it's not over yet. Like, like trying to bring in that realism to the end of the movie where you're not leaving feeling defeated, but you're leaving feeling like, what can I do now? And I don't know if Robert Rodriguez can do that, but I also don't know that he can't,
Well, we could always go the easy route and go J.J. Abrams as well. I feel like he's a bargain director at this point.
Yeah, he's lost some goodwill over the year. Honestly, I know he's tied up with Warner Brothers, but like James Gunn could probably nail that tone better than anybody. That's another one of those easy picks, Yeah.
What about the guys from Stranger Things?
Oh, the Duffer Brothers?
Yeah.
That's kind of interesting. I'm curious what their next move is going to be in general, given that they're wrapping up Stranger Things.
And I also don't really know them outside of that.
They don't really have a track record.
And they'd be working with kids again. They have the thing with Sadie Sink. If we cast her for the thing, it's them trying to show that they could do something 4-quadrant. They technically did something 4-quadrant for Netflix. Kids watch that, old people watch that, a lot of people watch that thing. If they wanted to, just turn it to big effects, turning it and making it naturalistic earth effects. Like they did a lot of fungi and jazz with forests and stuff. I could see them with a little bit more budget being able to. About the same budget actually, doing some stuff with Captain Planet. I think that's great. Who said that? That was great.
That was Ron.
That's fucking awesome, Ron. Damn.
Ron's on the casting today.
Ron's on this whole movie today. This is a Ron Swallow special here.
A Ron joint.
A Ron Swallow joint. Well, spark up your own because, gentlemen, I want to say it here. We have achieved Reboot. We have got a Captain Planet blockbuster. It is targeted towards the kids, but big enough for the whole family. It's going to be directed by either the Duffer Brothers or Robert Rodriguez. We have got the 4 children of oligarchs modeled on the likes of Luton Plunder and Miss Blight and whomever else. They're going to a G20 type summit where Zarm, who is a corporatist, online personality, think of him, Jordan Peterson, Gary Vee, that type of guy, and he stands up for man's domination over nature. And he is the person that all of these corporate types are trying to get to push their products. But meanwhile, their kids meet, have some friction, and then stumble across, hidden away at the summit, the spirit of the earth, Gaia, who's been imprisoned by Zarm. And in a desperate act, she gives them the power of the elements in the form of 5 rings. They start to experiment with the rings, and oops, they cause a series of natural disasters by summoning a monster with the power over nature. Wanting to flee, the 5th child in their group, who is the either son or daughter of a famous activist who has been petitioning all of these corporate leaders at the summit, convinces them, no, we have to stay and use our powers to clean up the mess we've made. Are you getting the message? When that kid realizes that his heart ring is actually an empathy ring, able to bring all of the goodness of humanity to the monster created out of the elements, oh my goodness, it materializes into Captain Planet, played by, well, we haven't settled for sure, but Jason Momoa, Henry Cavill, maybe Jared Padalecki if we could get him, because God knows he's...
Adam Driver. Anyways.
Adam Driver.
Oh, that's right. Adam Driver. We came all the way around to Adam Driver. But then things escalate because Zarm realizes, oh my God, the heart ring is all the pieces of me that I excised long ago so that I could wield power and success. And I need to get it back so no one is able to have power over me. Beginning a race against time to outwit the disasters and overcome Zarm before he can turn the other Planeteers to his side. Gentlemen, I think we did some good work here today.
I'm a little embarrassed that we've gone longer on Captain Planet than The Godfather, but I am happy with the result.
Yeah, I was gonna note that. Thank you for doing that. I also think it's evidence of just the creativity that goes into this jazz. This cartoon was so earnest, and us trying to keep that earnestness. I just got a bookend it at the beginning of this episode. I was like, we got to find a way to keep that earnestness, and we did.
Yeah, we did. Ron, you're the heart of the group. How are you feeling?
I'm feeling great. This really turned out like I think I like this better than the Captain Planet I watched. And isn't that the goal?
That is the goal. Well, when our powers combine, you get a reboot for the ages, baby. Thank you for sticking with us through this long one. We're going to be back with more reboots. We are back in full swing for, I guess, season 5 after our couple-year hiatus. So come back, same bad time, same bad channel. I am producer Bill. That is Billy Business. That is Ed Greer. And that down there is Ron Swallow. We're the Reboot Crew. We will see you next time.